Hello! Today we're going to use your kombucha making kit to make some kombucha. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is spread out all of your supplies. You'll have your tea, you'll have your SCOBY and your starter liquid, and you have your third bag with all of your directions and supplies. Step one is to sterilize your jar. So you just want to do that by washing it with some warm soapy water, then give it a rinse with some white vinegar to make sure that you get all the soapy residue out, and then dry it with a clean cotton cloth. Next, you're going to make your tea. So kombucha, you use only black and green tea, and that black and green tea needs to have no flavorings, no herbs. So we're going to use loose leaf tea. That's what you have in here. 1 tablespoon of black, 1 tablespoon of green. You want to take your distilled water. You want to add some of that distilled water to a pot. Not all of it, just some. And you want to bring that to a boil. So mine's at a boil. I'm going to take it off the heat. And I'm going to add my tea, all of it, to the bag, or to the pot. And that's it. Now I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes. And then after that, Okay, so now it's been 15 minutes. We're ready to make our tea. So the first thing that we're going to do is make sure we add a cup of sugar. So this is the only thing that's not included in your kit. So you're going to need to get a cup of sugar. This is just granulated, plain granulated sugar. All right, so we're going to pour that in our jar. The next thing we're going to do is strain our tea into our jar. The hot tea. So it's been steeping for 15 minutes, and I don't want any of the tea leaves in. So I'm just going to go ahead and strain that all in. And you can see the tea has expanded quite a lot. So there's lots of leaves there in the bottom. And I'm going to work hard to get all of that good tea out by getting the leaves out. All right, there we go. So there's the tea. So the next thing we want to do is cool that tea down. We need the tea to be cooled below 97 degrees. So you have a thermometer on your jar that you're going to use to check this. And we're going to add most of the rest of this gallon. We're not going to fill it up all the way because we need to introduce our SCOBY and our starter liquid. So we're going to go up to about here with it. So as you can see, I still have a little bit left in, and I might be able to fill that up a little bit more after we finish adding our SCOBY and our tea. So what I want to do is make sure that sugar is all the way dissolved. So I'm going to stir that sugar up and make sure that gets all the way dissolved. All right, I'll come back on when it's dissolved. Okay, so I just stirred until all the sugar was dissolved. Now, the dissolving would have went a little bit faster if I would have stirred while I just had that hot tea in there before I introduced the cool tea. So you can dissolve that sugar in just the hot tea. So there's our sweet tea. So that's what we need. The SCOBY and the starter liquid are going to feed on that and turn that into kombucha. So now we're going to just check and make sure that that is below 97 degrees, which it probably is because of the cool liquid. Mine definitely is. So now I'm just going to introduce the SCOBY and the starter liquid. You want to use clean, dry hands to do this. And you're going to touch that SCOBY because it's slippery. So you're going to reach in there and grab that SCOBY. And you're just going to put it into your jar. And you want the whiter, shinier side to go up, face up. There's some little slimy pieces on there. That's okay. It's just part of the SCOBY. It does not need to look perfect. That's just how it is. It's a living organism. And then we're going to add all the starter liquid in. And now your kombucha is ready to ferment. So we're ready for what's called the first ferment now. So what I'm going to do to prepare that for the first ferment is I'm going to find somewhere in my kitchen or somewhere in my house that I want to sit. We're gonna start checking it. First, we're gonna check it in about 24 to 48 hours. I'm gonna show you how to do that. You have some pH strips in your kit. So you're gonna take one of those pH strips in about 24 to 48 hours, about 24, so tomorrow around this time. You're gonna just dip this in for about 1 second. Let me show you. Dip it in, pull it out, and at that point, you're gonna be able to compare it with the log. You're gonna just kind of let it do its thing, and you're gonna be able to compare it with the log, with your log. So what we want here is we want this after 24 to 48 hours to be at a 4.5 pH or lower. So what we don't want is we don't want to see any of the black up here at the top. So you're going to turn it this way in order to do it. And you can already see that mine is around a 2.53 after, just a few minutes. So that's great. That shows me that we're at the right pH for this to ferment. If you see it up here, I doubt you will, but if you do, just check it again in another 24 hours. You can always add more starter liquid if needed. Okay, now we're ready to let it ferment. So we're gonna put it needs to breathe, so we're not gonna use this lid. We're done with this lid. We're gonna put the cloth cover on, and we're gonna wrap it with the rubber band. Now that is ready to sit in a cool-ish location in your kitchen. After 10 days, you're gonna check the taste. So after 10 days, you're gonna take your marker and you're gonna write the date on here on your chalkboard sticker so that you can know what the date is. You can also use this log that I've given you. This comes from a really great book called The Brewer's Log, and I have that linked for you on your directions. So you can jot down all of your information about what you did and how you did it so that you can keep track of it. And then on the back, that's what we're gonna use now. I'm gonna show you what to do in 10 to 14 days. So 10 to 14 days, you're gonna give it a taste. So you're just gonna dip in a spoon or a small cup, and you're gonna give it a taste. It should taste slightly sweet still. If it tastes too much like vinegar, which it won't after 10 days, but if it tastes too much like vinegar, then you can still make kombucha with it. It just will be a little more sour. So 10 days, start to check it. Between 10 and 14 days is when you're ready to do your second fermentation. You're ready to give it some flavoring. So that's what we're gonna do now. So after 10 to 14 days, you're gonna take this kombucha, you're going to grab a bowl with clean, dry hands. You're gonna take that SCOBY out, and you're gonna take a cup of that liquid. That liquid, the kombucha, is gonna be your starter liquid. So you're gonna take a cup of that liquid out and keep it with your SCOBY. And you're gonna set that aside for your new batch. So you're gonna make a new batch with that. Okay. Then you're gonna use that strainer, and you're gonna dump that whole gallon of liquid into a pitcher, something you can pour with. So I like to strain it just to get out any of those little bits from the SCOBY that might have gotten in there. And let me add my starter liquid. So I'm gonna add about a cup of starter liquid. I wanna save that. That's what I need to brew my next batch. Okay, but this is done kombucha. This is kombucha that is fermented for 2 weeks. Now we're ready to give it some flavoring. So to give it some flavoring, first of all, you need to find some jars to use. I like to use old kombucha jars. They're great because of the plastic lids. You can also use these flip-top glass jars. You can also, in a pinch, use a mason jar. I really like to use these kombucha jars, though they're easier to drink out of. You can use any kind of fruit that you would like. I have some blueberries here. If you look online, you can find lots of ideas for different combinations of flavors. You could just put the blueberries right in the bottom. In this case, I've used some elderberry juice that I made yesterday. I want to make elderberry kombucha. So I've just put a little bit of the my fruit juice that I expressed from those elderberries in there. That's another thing you can do. I just like to put the fruit in there usually. And then all I'm gonna do is fill each jar up. I'm gonna still give it about maybe an inch of headspace once I've got the fruit in there. gonna cap it. Use your marker to write the flavor. So I'm gonna write elderberry and then the date, today's date on here. And we're gonna leave, with the cap on, we're gonna leave this out for 3 days. So this needs 3 days out of the refrigerator to complete the fermentation. Each day I like to check it. I wanna make sure that I don't get a booty bomb. I never have. But what that means is it gets so bubbly in there that it's gonna explode. So what I'll do after 1 day, after 24 hours, is I'll just do what's called burping it. So I will just unscrew the lid just a little bit to let the air out and then screw it back on, just like that. And that lets some of the air escape. After 3 days, it's done and it's gonna go into the refrigerator. So once it's in the refrigerator, the fermentation's gonna stop and then you can just enjoy it for the next couple of weeks until you're ready to make some more. So that's how you do the second fermentation. All right, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your kombucha.